Okay, good afternoon. We are going on live early, pre-recording the class. Usually it's at 8:30 p.m. Newfoundland time, but we're going early today. Probably wondering why. Scheduling conflict. Anyway, I'm Rabbi Chernitsky, Director of Chabad of Newfoundland. It's my absolute pleasure to be here with you today. I close my curtains so I don't get distracted by the beautiful background that I have. So, again, I'm Rabbi Chernitsky, the People's Rabbi, continuing now with the laws, insights, traditions of a tzedakah from the works of the Lubavitcher Rebbe. And let's take it away. If you want to see the previous recordings, they're all available on YouTube, Facebook, and somehow on LinkedIn. But Facebook is easier. Chabad, it's facebook.com/Chabad-NFL-D/live. Okay, so let's continue inside the text. We're here in subsection 16, Tezain. Hasbaras Pani Mechsheves Tzedakah, that showing somebody a good countenance also is considered as an act of tzedakah. Understood that even when we made a Jew who's not lacking anything, both materially and spiritually, still the concept of tzedakah applies by showing him, by receiving him, greeting him with a good countenance. And he could actually do something tangible by hosting him as a guest, by giving him to eat, to drink, and a place to sleep. And to point out that this aspect of tzedakah is what applied by the Jewish people when they were in the desert and they prepared to receive the Torah, which, by the providence, right now we're also preparing to receive the Torah on Shavuot, right? Shavuot is 49 days, 7 weeks after Pesach, Passover. And we're now counting the Omer. When we count the 49 days since the Omer was brought the day after Passover until Shavuot. So we counted last night 18, so we are 32 days away from Shavuot, just under 5 weeks. So when the Jews left Egypt, each one had everything they needed. And even more than that, it was a way of wealth. Is told over in the homiletical teaching of our sages. The sages tell us about how great was the wealth of gold and silver, etc., that the Jews had, each and every person had from the boot, the ludi, the booty from after crossing the Sea of Reeds. Sorry, the booty they had from the Egyptians. The idea is and even more mibisas hayam from the Sea of Reeds. והפשיטה שבמשך זמן קוצר כזה, obviously in such a short amount of time, מיציאת מצרים לקבלת התורה, from the Exodus until receiving the Torah, 49 days, לא היה סיפק בידם, they didn't have the chance, the ability, אפילו אם היו רואים בכך, even if they wanted, לבזבז את כל רכושם to use out their wealth. ואם כן, and if that's the case, נשאל השאלה, the question is asked, כיצד קיימו בני ישראל את מצוות צדקה כאשר אף אחד מהם לא היה זקוק לכך? How did the Jews keep the mitzvah of tzedakah when nobody needed anything, right? Rather, we're forced to say that they did the mitzvah tzedakah, not by giving money, but rather by treating everybody, greeting everybody with a nice countenance. In particular, this is expressed in actuality by greeting guests. So, which is something, which is a concept of tzedakah, which is the first concept of tzedakah we find in a revealed by the first Jew, Echad Hay Avram, right by Abraham, that he says Echad Hay Avram, he was one of a kind, he was single, he was the first one to act in such a generous way. He would greet everybody in his inn, and he would even let them sleep and eat and drink for free once they recognized where it all came from, the Creator, the one above, the Almighty God. Okay, let's continue here. Yud Zayin, subsection 17. Ha'alam asay min tzedakah chayser his taklus b'matzav yoni. to hide their eye, for a person to hide their eye from tzedakah, which means not to look into the situation of the poor person. The saying in the Talmud of Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha with regards to the mitzvah of tzedakah. Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha oimer kol amayli meinam min tzedakah ki'ilu oived avidas kechavim. So Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha said, whomever hides his eyes from tzedakah is as if he's worshipped idolatry. Ksiv Acha, it says over here in one verse, guard yourself, be careful, lest there be something with your heart that is belial. We'll soon see what that means. Ksiv Hasam, it says in another verse, Yatzu Anoshim B'nei Belial, and that there went out men who are also Belial. What does that mean? Just like in the second verse, Belial means it's a reference to idolatry. So too, in the first verse, when the Torah is speaking about being generous, not to hold back our giving, use the same word Belial, which means that somebody who refuses to give charity, give tzedakah, he is as if he worships idols. Kloimar, meaning to say, Rabbi Shimon Kach Madgish is going to she was the Re'iyah that Rabbi Shimon Karcha is emphasizing the great importance of sight. Hamaili may know of somebody who hides his eyes in relation to the mitzvah tzedakah. Hashkula can call a mitzvah because tzedakah is compared to all the mitzvot put together. And in particular, as the Alter Rebbe in this holy book of Tanya speaks at length about what tzedakah is about, the wonders that it accomplishes in the spiritual realms, besides the help in the material sense. So Rabbi Shimon Kach is saying that that sight is so special, so important, that hiding specifically the eye from tzedakah, that specifically is considered like idolatry, avodah zarah. In hachikari v'toira, which is something so significant in Torah, right? It's the opposite of monotheism. It's the opposite of the oneness of God, which is central to Judaism. Pratius Yosef, in one particular, the mitzvah tzedakah, negia b'ikar mes b'poil is mainly relevant to what you do in actuality. Right? Giving life to the soul of the poor, the life of the poor. And therefore, the person had a coin, a tzela, bound up in his garment. He fell from him. Even his partner's bow. Poor person found it and he sustained himself with the coin. Hashem gave him a blessing. We quoted this before, which means that he gets the reward. He checks off the box of having done the mitzvah tzedakah. In actuality, the poor person sustained himself through him. Nevertheless, in the saying of Rabbi Shimon ben Karcha, it doesn't speak about the actual giving of tzedakah. So still, when Rabbi Shimon ben Karcha wants to express himself about tzedakah, doesn't use the word the yad, which means a hand. Doesn't say whomever closes his hand, which is what the Torah says, like don't close your hand in front of the poor. And even with regards to obligation of giving with a happy countenance, say Panim Yafos, Shigam say Prat Chashu ve'ikar Mesinas Tzedakah, which is also an important detail in the mitzvah of tzedakah. Kim rather Amayl Meinamin tzedakah dafka. He specifically uses an expression of sight. Somebody who hides his eyes from tzedakah, he's like an idolater. The reason for that, since hiding is such an essential thing, so important. To hide your eye from tzedakah means that it's lacking by this person who doesn't give. He's missing. He's lacking attention towards the poor person. He's not staring at the situation of the poor person. Right? It doesn't touch his heart. And therefore, therefore, even if he actually gives him some money, since it's missing the foundation, that he should really feel for the person. He's missing the fact of he's not looking at the person. It's impossible to know what's going to be later on. On the other hand, when a person does not hide his eyes from the tzedakah, meaning he's staring at the poor person, it affects his heart. The giver or non-giver's heart. Even in this very moment, he's not actually given tzedakah, for whatever reason. Nevertheless, the strong hope is that at the end of the day, he will actually give tzedakah. Because he's in that situation, he's actually looking at the poor person. And this could be connected to what the Alter Rebbe writes in his Maimorim, in his Hasidic dissertations. At the beginning of Parshas A, we spoke about the Nekuda V'Chola, that the Nekuda Sachochma Bechinas Re'iyah Mechayes HaHechom. Explains in Kabbalistic terms that the Nekuda, the dot, which refers to Chochma, wisdom, which also is sight, that gives life to the Heichal, to the chamber. Shem Ein Nekuda in Heichal Meshamesh Klum. And if the dot, the Nekuda, isn't there, then the chamber serves no purpose. Kaloimer, meaning to say, even if the chamber is whole, it's complete. And in our case, the act of tzedakah is there. You need to have the nekuda, the dot. Here, that dot, the foundation, as you could say, the whole point is seeing the poor person. So it's not enough that you're going to give him money. You need to look at him, you need to see him, you need to feel for him. Otherwise, there's something missing in your mitzvah. Let's see. Okay, let's do one more. Subsection 18. Hamanais mit tzedakah, holding back from tzedakah, yeshus hagaiva, feelings of self-importance and haughtiness, v'nesina tetzasa biton. But giving is the result of self-nullification. Geish keshahud royani toyain hu is a ta'aina isa lehishmiyat nizrufus b'atzin Rebbe Kiva. Melokechem oivanim hu madua ina mefarnesam. So some people, when they see a poor person, they come up with the same argument that Turnus Rufus, a Roman general, said to the Rabbi Rabbi Akiva, if your God loves the poor people so much, Madua, why? Why doesn't he sustain them? Kaloimar, meaning to say, because this person thinks in his holiness that whatever he has, he deserves. And to the contrary, he deserves more than what he has. And if so, what room is there for him to give any money to others? And his feeling of self, his egotistical feeling of self, does not sustain, does not allow for him to reckon with someone else's existence, right? He's so full of himself, of saying in English, there's no room for anybody else. Why should he give any money? There's no one else in his life, only him. Therefore, he says, fine, this person's completely not like me. And therefore, to this person, in his erred calculation, he says the poor person is poor, doesn't have anything because he doesn't deserve it, doesn't deserve to have money. And therefore, this is the way this person is thinking. Because Hashem wants כפי שהצדק דורש לעשות באמת, which is the righteous thing to do. שלא יהיה עני, since it doesn't deserve it, and that's what Hashem wants then, right? That this person should be poor. למה ייתן הוא לו? What should he give him? That's God's will. What should he give him any money? So לעומת זה כשהוא bottom. And now we're going to say that the opposite is the attitude when the person doesn't have haughtiness, but the contrary, he is not he's in a feeling of bitul, of self-nullification. Aleph, number one. He does a proper self-accounting. Does he think, am I really better than the person who is poor? Person makes a calculation about himself and then brings him to give tzedakah, as the verse says, Mishpat tzedakah v'Yaakov tasisa. You Hashem have made Mishpat, the judgment, and tzedakah with Yaakov. So we explain that this verse to mean that the person does a Mishpat by himself, person who judges himself, does a proper accounting, that leads him to give tzedakah. When he realizes that, why are we better off than the poor person? We're not. It's just that in God's mercy, so therefore we're going to give him some money, help him out. Base number two. He understands that even if the fact is that the other person actually doesn't have, because it's a divine punishment, Rachaman Islam, God should save us from such a thing. But yet the fact that this person he has some money, despite his not good situation spiritually, he compels him to say that we, all of us, are to Hashem like children. When the king punishes his son, and then the friend of the king does a kindness to the king's son, the king actually enjoys that. And that's when Rabbi Kiva told Turnus Rufus, right, to ask about why does God make poor people if he loves them so much. Just that the way, that's the way it's by the mitzvah tzedakah. So do it by all the mitzvahs that Hashem gave us, and there's a purpose for it, to make us better, to make the world better, and that everything we have, we need to realize it's only on deposit from Hashem. Do we deserve it? No, but Hashem gave it to us for us to give tzedakah, share with others, give to others, make the world a better place, make us better people. Hope you enjoyed it. That's the end of today's class. Again, I'm Rabbi Chernitsky, Director of Chabad of Newfoundland. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you could send us an email, rabbinewfoundland@gmail.com. You could check out our website, rabbinewfoundland.com. Don't miss the Tanya class next Monday. We're going to again start the Tanya class, and also we'll continue with this class. We'll be next Wednesday, 8:30 p.m. NDT. Have a wonderful